Good morning, everyone. The time is now 10:02. I will call today's meeting to order. Today is April 9th, the Planning Board meeting to order. We have the following board members with us today. Vice Chair Giraldo. Good morning. Commissioner Okoye.
Good morning.
Commissioner Matthews.
Good morning.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Good morning.
For the record, I'm Chairman Barnes. We will move forward with the business at hand. Please note that the deadline for all participation, pre-registration, and all submission of materials and exhibits was 12 noon on Tuesday before the Planning Board meeting. The order of cases for today's meetings are as follows. Items 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. First item on the agenda is item 2, draft minutes of April 2nd, 2026. I look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the minutes from April 2nd, 2026.
Mr. Chair, I second the motion.
It's been properly moved and second. I will now call the roll. Vice Chair Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Okoye.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Matthews.
I vote aye.
And I vote aye as well. We will now move on to the next agenda item. Item number 3, legislative updates and approvals. We will hear from Jordan Balcom-Colbert.
Good morning, Planning Board members. Again, Jordan Balcom-Colbert, Senior Government Affairs Analyst in the Office of General Counsel. For the record, we're about 4 days away from sine die, which is the last day of legislative session. The next time you see me, I will be bringing our annual legislative final report. This morning, I bring to you HB 1223, formerly titled Farmers Markets Street Food Vending Zones Requirement PG 411-26, which has now been amended to the Prince George's County Work Group on Farmers Market and Street Vending Zones. This bill is being sponsored by Delegate Denny Tavares. The request for this bill is support with amendments. This bill establishes the Prince George's County Work Group on Farmers Markets and Street Vending Zones. The work group consists of a member from the Prince George's County Senate, a member from the Prince George's County House, the county executive, 2 members from the county council, Chesapeake Climate Action Now, and a host of other organizations and entities. The impetus behind this bill is to explore the creation of a county-supported farmers market in Langley Park and possibly other areas to address persistent, unregulated street vending issues. The work group shall identify and review any current regulations or permitting for farmers market and street vending, examine how other counties in the state regulate or permit farmers markets and street vendors, identify safety, health, environmental concerns related to farmers markets and street vendors, and identify any concerns about farmers market and street vendors as it's needed. On or before December 1st, the work group will report its findings and recommendations regarding this bill. Since the bill takes effect July 1st, we should expect the work group to start planning early stages right after legislative session. So to continue to commission support for farmers markets in the county, the commission is recommending a sponsor amendment or that the committee consider amending the proposed bill to include us as a work group member. That language is Prince George's County Parks and Recreation Department Director or his designee, which gives flexibility to have a staff member or whoever we would like to appoint for that role. Just to let you know, this bill has passed the House chambers and it currently sits in the Senate Rules Committee. If voted out, it would have a bill hearing in the Energy, Environment, and Education Senate Committee where we would submit our position statement. Are there any questions before the vote?
Are there any questions of Ms. Jordan Balcom-Colbert? Saying none, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we follow the recommendations of staff and support House Bill 1223 with the amendments proposed by staff.
I second.
It's been properly moved and second. I will call the roll. Vice Chair Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Okoye.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Matthews.
I vote aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you so much, Ms. Balcom-Colbert. The next item on the agenda is item number 3C, Corporate Budget Office FY26 Budget Adjustment for the Planning Department. Ms. Charles.
Good morning. For the record, Terry Falls, Commission Budget Officer. I'm before you this morning to ask for your consideration of a request from the Planning Department to realign available budget funds totaling $312,100. A request of this nature at the beginning of fourth quarter is quite typical. In this instance, the Planning Department has identified savings within two divisions, the Community Planning Division, $232,100, and their Management Services Division, $80,000. The realignment of funds for community planning will support upcoming place-making events and provide greater opportunity for professional development training. And the requested realignment of funds in management services will provide for a much-needed fleet vehicle. That completes my presentation of the request for your approval to process this $312,100 budget transfer.
Are there any questions for Ms. Charles? One of my favorites. If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the budget transfer of $312,100 to requested by staff.
Mr. Chair, I second the transfer.
It's been properly moved in second.
Director, close the door.
I will now call the roll. Vice Chair Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Okoye.
Would I?
Commissioner Jenkins.
We stood with them. A sense of justice
Can we make sure that
and of peace.
we will move forward to the consent agenda items. Consent agenda items 4D. If there's anyone who wishes to oppose the staff's recommendation for the consent agenda items, and if not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, after consideration of the record for item numbers 4D, I move adoption of the staff findings and approval of the items on the consent agenda in accordance with the recommendations of staff.
Mr. Chair, I second the. It's been properly moved in second. I will now call the roll. Vice Chair Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Okoye.
Would I?
Commissioner Jenkins.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Matthews.
I vote aye.
And I vote aye as well. We will move forward to the regular agenda items. The first item on the agenda, item number 5, Countywide Planning Division, MR-2025-001, Beltsville Volunteer Fire Department. We will now hear from Mr. Ryan.
Good morning, Chairman Barnes and members of the board.
Can you bring the microphone closer?
Good morning, Chairman Barnes and members of the board. For the record, this is Benjamin Ryan with the Special Projects section. Item number 5 is mandatory referral, MR 2025-0010, Beltsville Fire Department number 831 addition. This project proposes to construct an ADA-compliant building addition and entrance, along with minor changes to the parking area. Please advance to slide 10. The project proposes a 474-foot building addition with ADA-compliant access point. Minor site parking lot changes are also proposed, along with
Can you stop for 1 second? Can you get the slides up?
Okay. The project proposes a 474-foot building addition with an ADA-compliant access point. Minor site parking lot changes are also proposed, along with a crosswalk crossing Prince George's Avenue, which accesses the overflow parking area. Next slide, please. The site concept plan shows the proposed addition along the southwest portion of the building. Next slide, please. Staff recommendations include providing a photometric plan for lighting fixtures, updating plans in accordance with the 2018 Landscape Manual, continued coordination with the fire marshal pertaining to emergency vehicle access, as well as tactile warning surface and pavement marking recommendations at the location of the crosswalk. And this concludes staff presentation.
Are there any questions for Mr. Ryan? Seeing none, we will now hear from the applicant's attorney, Mr. Miller.
Good morning, Chair. Just for the record, I'm a professional engineer, not the attorney, representing the applicant. My name is Pete Mellitz. I'm a professional engineer with LCSJ Services, site engineering, representing Beltsville Volunteer Fire Department in reference to this project. On behalf of the applicant, good morning, Chair and Commissioners. We acknowledge the recommendations from staff. I'm happy to answer any questions that might be asked.
So, you said that you acknowledge and you accept them.
We accept them.
Okay.
Are there any questions for Mr. Miller? Seeing none, I see no one in opposition. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the findings of staff and, as well as the recommendations of staff and approve the Beltsville Volunteer Fire Department number 831 edition.
Mr. Chair, I second that motion.
It's been properly moved and second. I will now call the roll. Vice Chair Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Corrier.
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Aye.
Commissioner Matthews.
I vote aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
The next item on the agenda is item number 6, Countywide Planning Division, MR-2025-0015 Mill Branch Place Solar. Once again, we will hear from Mr. Ryan.
Good morning, Chairman Barnes and members of the board. Once more, for the record, this is Benjamin Ryan with the Special Project Section. Item number 6 is mandatory referral MR 2025-0015 Mill Branch Place Solar.
Mr. Ryan, can you hold that one more time?
This project proposes an approximate 25-acre solar facility on a 46.32-acre parcel. As a matter of housekeeping, prior to the April 7th noon deadline, the applicant submitted one additional exhibit, which is a Phase 1 archaeological survey for the site. This will be discussed later in the presentation. Next slide, please. The project is located in Council District 4 and Planning Area 74B. The site falls within the Rural and Agricultural Areas Policy Area. Next slide, please. The site vicinity map shows the site outlined in red. The site is located along Mill Branch Place in Bowie, approximately 0.75 miles east of its intersection with Robert Crane Highway. Next slide, please. The site is zoned AG, Agriculture and Preservation. Next slide, please. The aerial map shows the site outlined in red. The site had previously been used for agricultural purposes. Next slide, please. The site falls within the Middle Patuxent River watershed. Next slide, please. The slide shows the master plan right-of-way. As mentioned, the site fronts along Mill Branch Place on its southern border. Next slide, please. Notification mailings were sent by staff on February 6 to all adjacent properties, registered community associations, and municipalities. Staff have not received any responses indicating opposition. Next slide, please. The project includes a solar facility consisting of 4,088 panels, a 7-foot-high black vinyl chain-link fence, and an electrical utility connection. The applicant's submission includes herbaceous ground cover with pollinator plants to be located below the solar panels, therefore qualifying the project as a dual-use land concept. Staff will further discuss and highlight additional dual-use land recommendations at the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. The site concept plan shows the layout of the solar array. An access driveway originating along Mill Branch Place is shown on the plan and provides access throughout the site. The wooded areas shown along the eastern and western borders of the site are existing landscape buffers designed to minimize visibility of the solar array and assist in maintaining an agricultural field. Next slide, please. This slide lists the required permitting agencies the applicant must obtain approval from. Next slide, please. This slide shows the soils map. The portions labeled CNA, CNB, CNC, and SRA are considered prime farmland or farmland of statewide importance. Class 4 soils are better. The adopted uniform standards for mandatory referral contain guidelines for solar energy systems, specifically that dual-use land concepts are to be explored with solar developments when they are located on prime farmland or farmland of statewide importance. Next slide, please. This slide shows staff recommendations. As previously mentioned, the applicant has proposed pollinator plants with herbaceous ground cover to be located beneath the solar panels as a dual-use land concept. However, this is considered the least desirable dual-use land concept as stated within the solar energy system guidelines. The applicant has stated that they have been unable to find a farm with which they could lease sheep or other animals to provide grazing. The applicant has also reached out to the Maryland State Beekeepers Association about potential partnerships, but has not had any contact as of yet. The applicant has stated that they will continue to explore the possibility of dual-use land concepts in addition to the proposed pollinator plants located beneath the solar panels. As such, staff is recommending that the applicant continue crop production and/or maintaining livestock grazing on all portions of the site considered prime farmland or farmland of statewide importance as identified in the soils report. Additionally, staff had previously recommended that the applicant perform a Phase 1 archaeological survey, which was requested by the Historic Preservation section. The applicant submitted the Phase 1 survey on April 7th, prior to the noon deadline. Historic Preservation staff have not had an opportunity to complete a full review of the report. However, Historic Preservation staff do agree with the consultant's findings that the site identified is not significant and no other work is required. As such, staff will not recommend a Phase 2 or Phase 3 investigation. This concludes staff presentation.
Are there any questions for Mr. Ryan?
I have two. Mr. Upwood, if the historical department was unable, because of time, to evaluate the report, how is it that they're making a recommendation?
They did not complete a report, but they were able to view the report and agree with the consultant's findings that a Phase 2 archaeological survey would not be required.
Even though they weren't able to complete the entire review of the report?
Yes.
I have nothing further.
Can you clarify that there hasn't been any response from the community, from the neighbors?
We did not receive any letters of opposition, and I don't believe anyone has signed up in opposition to the case.
And this was sent out in February, you said?
Yes.
So what's the deadline? Timeline for them to respond?
We sent them on February 6th, and my contact is listed, the applicant's contact is listed. I haven't received any opposition. I don't believe our staff have either.
So, excuse me, for the record, James Hunt, acting planning director. So the community, the entire community had up until I think Tuesday at 12 noon to register and also to provide any insight into any feedback and put it into the record for analysis, which is what I think Mr. Ryan is trying to do here. So they had the time up from February until now.
That's correct.
Just want to have that on my card.
Mr. Chair, we do have, I believe, experts from our historical. Perhaps they can give us some insight on this.
You come over here.
Hello, Amelia Chisholm for the record with Historic Preservation. I am the archaeologist who has been recommending the Phase 1 survey, and I did receive the report on Tuesday. I was able to fully read the report, but our review process is more involves like line by line editing and stuff like that. So while I haven't been able to complete a full review of the report, I have been able to read the report and digest it and agree with their consultant's recommendation that the site was identified but was not determined to be significant and no further work needs to be done.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for her or for Mr. Ryan? Thank you. We will now hear from the applicant's attorney, Mr. Tedesco.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. Matthew Tedesco, law firm McNamara, here on behalf of Mill Branch Place Solar LLC, care of Alder Energy Development LLC. With me this morning online, we have Wyatt Henneman, Craig Knowlton, and Don Zimmerman from Alder. From GLW here with us, we have Mark Johnston in the room, and online we have Tim Longfellow and Kevin Foster. I want to thank staff for its review. I want to thank Ms. Chisholm for her testimony just a moment ago. I will say the items that were discovered were just trash scatter. There wasn't anything of any significance that was found.
Well, I don't know about that because I read some of the stuff we dated back to the 16th or 15th century.
Right, of non-consequential. And it's all been registered with MHC by now, Mr. Gerardo. I also wanted to just highlight something that Commissioner Okoye mentioned with respect to the notifications. For mandatory referral applications, which I think the board is intimately familiar with, your authority for mandatory referral, which is advisory only and non-regulatory in nature. You actually don't approve or deny these applications. You simply go through the process, acknowledge that we've gone through mandatory referral, and your recommendations are provided to the state, who have the ultimate authority in approving these projects. It does not require informational mailing letters to be sent by the applicants. However, we do that as out of practice just because all of our DRD applications require that. And although these applications don't, we do it to be inclusionary to all the communities in the area. So we get the mailing list from your staff, no different than we would for a development review application. We send those out. Staff also sends out notifications that Mr. Ryan testified to. Staff's mailings were done in February. Ours were done in mid-January. We sent ours in January 15th. We received no phone calls, no inquiries. In fact, the majority of the surrounding property is all owned by the same property owner and or family members of the property owner. So it was not surprising that we didn't receive any feedback since all of them are somewhat involved in this application. If you would just indulge me, just briefly, I'll go through a very quick presentation. We strongly believe that this project aligns with the county policies and need. This project directly advances the county's adopted policies of encouraging clean, renewable energy, generation, investment in energy infrastructure, and reduction in carbon emissions. As staff notes, this project is consistent with Plan 2035, which explicitly supports renewable energy in rural and agricultural areas. This project will facilitate infrastructure delivering clean power to Prince George's County residents as part of the Community Solar Pilot Program. We acknowledge that this is in the AG zone area of the county, which ranks low in the SES siting hierarchy. However, the applicant has carefully mitigated those concerns. The site is already cleared agricultural land, avoiding unnecessary disturbance. Only about 1,524 square feet of woodland is impacted by this application. The array is set back by over 100 feet from all property lines. The project is visually screened by topography and existing vegetation and preserves the rural character of the area. This is exactly what the SES guidelines contemplate, minimizing these impacts while enabling renewable energy for the county. This project does not degrade the site, but seeks to improve upon it, while addressing the critical need of the county for clean, renewable energy. It introduces pollinator-friendly ground cover, improves stormwater quality through vegetation and best management practices, has minimal traffic and no operational noise or lighting impacts. No critical habitats or protected species are impacted by this application. Addressing the one item of discussion dealing with the dual use requirement, we understand that the primary comment and the recommendation deals with the dual use expectation. This applicant, this board may remember, had a case before you back in July. It is the only known applicant that I know of that has an actual contract in place to have grazing on that property. And that dealt with the Old Marble Pike Solar Project, MRF 2022-022. So we know how to do it. Unfortunately, through best efforts, which have been documented in the staff report, we have been unable to identify sheep grazing opportunities for this particular property. In fact, as recently as yesterday, the property owner re-engaged with his feelings that they do not want sheep grazing on the property for various reasons. Nevertheless, we did explore all opportunities with any local sheep grazing farmers. None were available. We also reached out to the Maryland State Beekeepers Association back in September, and we are encouraged to continue to try to reach out to them to see if that would be an option for the Beekeepers Association to use a portion of this property for the dual use. Those efforts have not yielded any response, but per staff's recommendation to encourage us to continue to do that, we accept that recommendation and will continue in that vein. We did reach out to organizers in Agrivoltaics Summit to identify any other dual-use operators. None were able to be identified. And that dates back over a 3-month time period throughout the fall. Those efforts are continuous and ongoing. Despite best efforts, grazing is not currently viable for the site, but the applicant will continue to explore all options.
Mr. Tedesco,
yes, sir.
So why isn't this site acceptable for grazing?
Well, first, the property owner won't allow us. He's not willing to entertain any engagements with any farmers if there were even any farmers available, which we have not identified. So they've indicated to us verbally that they do not want sheep on their property for various reasons.
So, and property owner is the one that's going to gain from the solar. Is that right?
Well, the lease agreements with the property owner. That's correct. So while we know the pollinator planting is probably the least preferred option, and I certainly expressed that to my client who is familiar with this board's desire to see other dual uses, which is precisely why they contracted with the sheep grazing of the property back in July. That property already had livestock on it, so it was amenable to it. But nevertheless, it still does provide soil stabilization, habitat creation, water quality benefits, and long-term ecological value and biodiversity for the property. This is a temporary use and is a reversible use by nature. The facility has a defined operational life. It has a binding decommissioning plan and bonds ensure the full restoration of the property is realized. At the end of the project life cycle, the land returns to agricultural use with improved soils of that state and infrastructure in place. The SES guidelines require balance, not perfection. Today the board is weighing preservation of agricultural soils versus urgent need for clean energy and grid resilience. This project strikes that balance, minimizing environmental impacts, preserving site reversibility, and delivering immediate public benefits. The applicant has met or substantially has addressed the SES guidelines. The dual use requirement has been seriously explored, and we will continue to explore all those efforts and options. The project provides clear public benefit and minimal long-term impacts. For all of these reasons, we would respectfully request the board's support of staff's recommendation and issue a letter to the applicant completing this process. Thank you so much.
Are there any questions for Mr. Tedesco?
I have one. The life cycle is 20 years?
25 to 30. There's a lease extension of up to 5 years after 25 years.
Thank you, Mr. Tedesco.
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
David Warner, Principal Counsel. I wanted to clarify one thing that Mr. Tedesco said. The planning board approves or disapproves mandatory referral applications. But if they were to disapprove mandatory referral application, the applicant could proceed with their project as they proposed. But the proper way to refer to it is approve or disapprove in the motion, as Mr. Geraldo made for the previous mandatory referral.
Thank you for that update and clarification. Saying no one in opposition to this, you have a question?
I have a clarification and reaffirmation of Mr. Tedesco for the benefit of my colleagues here who don't know you all. So please remember, when I came on board, I asked that you please identify your people when they come in.
Yes, I apologize, Commissioner. Mark, if you could just stand up. So Mark Johnson is with GLW. They're the civil engineers for the project. The rest of the team is online virtually.
And I would also my colleagues tell you this is good.
Yes, thank you for that. I apologize.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, before I make the motion, I just want to clarify. I talked with the staff before. I know that several years ago we approved that we would allow solar on agriculture, and I'm always concerned about the agricultural land not being used for that purpose. And when the vote came up with the board,
I was the sole one who wanted to exclude agricultural property. But that being said, what Mr. Warner told us, I know that we could either approve or disapprove, but if we disapprove, it'll go forward anyway. So I would, and since the applicant has agreed to the recommendation to continue to pursue more than just herbaceous covering, I will move that we approve the recommendations and transmit the project to the applicant.
Mr. Chair, second the motion.
It's been properly moved and second. I will now call the roll. Vice Chair Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Okoye.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Matthews.
I vote aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is item number 7, Office of the Planning Director, Legislative Drafting Request LDR 14-2026. We will now hear from Ms. Gomez.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and members of Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Board. For the record, Natalia Gomez with the Planning Director's Office. Today, I'm presenting you the Legislative Drafting Request LDR 14-2026. Next slide, please. The purpose is, can you read? Can you sit up? I can. So the purpose of this LDR is to first permit daycare center for children as a matter of right by eliminating the special exception requirement. It also proposes to exempt daycare center for children from detailed site plan approval where applicable. When I mean applicable is because any application that has a development of more than 25,000 square feet requires detailed site plan exception. And childcare almost never requires that much developable square footage. Third, requires community notification. 4, it will modify parking requirements by eliminating minimums in certain zones and reducing them in others. Next slide, please. This slide shows what the bill is proposing. As I mentioned, essentially is changing the special exception requirement to permit it, that means that instead of going to the zoning hearing examiner, it will go straight to permitting. It's an administrative process. Next slide, please. The proposed bill is consistent with the intent of the last zoning rewrite approved in CB 15/2022, particularly its emphasis on reducing discretionary review process, expanding administrative approvals, and improving predictability in the development review process. Staff considers that exemption from detailed site plan review is appropriate because the zoning ordinance already provides use-specific standards for daycare center for children, which addresses properly site design, operational characteristics, and compatibility considerations. And lastly, we consider that LDR 14-2026 advances the county's broader goal on streamlining development approvals as requested by the county's executive, the county council, and other stakeholders. Next slide, please. Staff has proposed some technical amendments listed on the staff report, and also more than amendments, we propose some policy considerations for the sponsor, which include first, incorporate the special exception standard listed in section 27-5402X, governing play areas and related protections into the requirements applicable in the permitted principal uses listed in section 27-502D2A. What I'm trying to say with this is that these standards are intended to ensure the special exceptions that are currently in the code are intended to ensure that daycare facilities are sited in locations that minimize children exposure to adverse nearby impacts, and effectively designed outdoor areas are provided to support their well-being in compliance with applicable state legislation. So they should be added to the use-specific standards. The other recommendation is a reconsideration of the proposed community notification requirement, because the reasoning is that under the current zoning ordinance, public notice is required in connection with applications that involve public hearing to provide parties an opportunity to present testimony against or proposed. So this is for public speaking from the community on projects that are heard here at the planning board. Since these applications will no longer be heard by the planning board or the zoning hearing examiner, they are considered administrative processes, and they, by default, they do not involve public hearing. So that might create a little bit of confusion among residents, because if they receive a notification of an application, I think they are expecting to have the opportunity to participate and have a say. But these applications do not have it. So it will be confusing in the whole process itself. And lastly, update the definition of daycare center for children. We think that this LDR is the perfect opportunity to update that definition to ensure clarity and internal consistency within the zoning ordinance in alignment with state licensing requirements. In other words, this revision would remove language suggesting that such facilities may operate within a dwelling unit, allowing for a clear distinction between daycare center for children as a principal use versus the definition for accessory childcare facilities in a dwelling, which are defined separately as a family childcare home. Next slide, please. With that, the planning department recommends the planning board support LDR-14-2026 with the amendments proposed in the staff report. This concludes my staff presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Ms. Gomez?
I have one, Mr. Chair. So if it doesn't come to the planning board, who's going to determine whether or not the circulation within the daycare facility is safe for the children?
It's staff, our development review staff. So we still will review it as a normal application. The only difference is that it will not involve a public hearing.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
I believe there were a couple that had signed up in favor. Is David Porter here? Is Hope Porter here?
Yes, David Porter is here. I'm here virtually.
All right, David, you have 2 minutes.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm here in support of LDR 14-2026. I am the senior pastor of Excel Church in Bowie, Maryland, and I'm here to support that. Just have a couple of talking points. One of the first things is that child care shortage is a community crisis, and every unnecessary delay in opening a daycare is a delay in a parent returning to work. We get a lot of requests asking, when we're going to open. We're in the process of opening our daycare center, and it's been a big challenge just going through, the special exception process, which we're in the midst of. Also, this barrier hurts small businesses and minority-owned businesses for first-time entrepreneurs, woman-owned, minority-owned. And so this process unintentionally excludes the very entrepreneurs that our county should be empowering. And keep in mind the economic impact. Certainly, I'm a pastor, and we're doing this to help parents in our community, single parents. But there's also an economic impact. Lack of child care is directly tied to reduced workforce participation, increased absenteeism. So making it easier to open daycare centers helps parents stay employed and strengthens the community. And finally, I just want to say that the time delay are costly and really hurt business. It's very difficult for businesses to continue to cover payroll, pay rent, mortgage. Certainly, we've encountered that throughout this process, having to pay engineers and consultants as we're going through. So we definitely support the LDR 14-2026. Expanding daycare access supports single parents, It improves early childhood outcomes and strengthens neighborhoods. This is not just a business issue. It's an equity issue and a community investment. It's something that, we at the Excel Church in Bowie, Maryland, we're very concerned about, particularly.
That would be helpful.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Hope Porter. You have 2 minutes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair and members of the Planning Board. My name is Pastor Hope Porter of the Excel Church in Bowie, Maryland, and I stand in strong support of LDR 14-2026. And as someone who has personally experienced the barriers this legislation is seeking to remove. Our church, which we acquired in June of 2026, is over 17,000 square feet and sits on 3 acres of land, a fully built, active community. And yet, over the past 6 months, what should have been a straightforward effort to meet a critical community need has turned into a costly and prolonged process. We've had to hire attorneys, engage consultants, and navigate a system that is not easily understood nor clearly documented and not readily accessible. The financial burden is significant. The timeline is excessive. We're in our 6th month of the special exception process, just completing the pre-application process, and this is all exclusive of the rigorous MSDE licensure process and inspection. Even more concerning, our property already has a special exception from 1963 as a kindergarten. Additionally, our project involves no construction, no expansion, no renovation, just change of use. Yet despite that, we still have been required to pursue an entirely new special exception. The fact that our community church with 150 members has to go through the same process as Southlake, which is a $1.3 billion, 381-acre mixed-use development in Bowie, speaks to the problem. The reality alone highlights how disconnected the current system has become. The result is simple. Only well-capitalized entities can afford to open child care centers in the county, and that should concern all of us.
Your time is up if you want to conclude.
Yes, let me get to my summary. For those of us already in the process, relief just can't be future focused. It must be immediate. So respectfully, I ask this board to do 2 things. Number 1, support the passing of this legislation. And second, allow us to utilize our existing 1963 exception now for both child care and before and after care services so that we can support the families in Bowie and Prince George's County. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Sarah Weaver here? Sarah Weaver? Seeing that she's not here, is there any other deliberation from the board? And if not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve or recommend support LDR 014-2026 with the amendments recommended by staff.
Mr. Chair, I second the motion.
It's been properly moved and second. I will now call the roll. Vice Chair Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Okoye.
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Matthews.
I vote aye.
Ms. Porter, I vote aye as well. Thank you all so much and have a great day. I'm going to move out of order simply because there are too many people standing, and I'm going to go to item 10, which is the preliminary plan of subdivision PPS-2022-036 Glenview re-subdivision. This hearing was continued on March 26 to provide the applicant an opportunity to have further discussions with the community. The planning board has heard testimony from all in favor and in opposition of this application, and the applicant has had an opportunity to provide rebuttal. Therefore, according to the board's procedures, at this time, the board will not hear closing statements from each side. I understand, and our attorney will be speaking on behalf of his opponents, and the applicant's attorney will follow with his closing argument. I will reopen the hearing. First, we will now hear from the staff who will present this item, provided a brief summary of the case and reinstate staff recommendations. Mr. Barton.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Jason Bartlett with the subdivision section. Item number 10 on the agenda is preliminary plan of subdivision for Glenview re-subdivision, PPS-2022-036. This case was presented on and continued from the March 26, 2026 Planning Board hearing to today, April 9, 2026. This subdivision proposes 3 lots and 1 parcel for single-family detached residential and 12,180 square feet of institutional development. It is further associated with an approved certificate of adequacy, ADQ-2022-089, which was approved in accordance with the subdivision regulations to ensure that infrastructure necessary to support the proposed development are adequate in accordance with established level of service standards. At the March 26, 2026 Planning Board hearing, the subdivision staff recommended the Planning Board adopt the findings and approve the preliminary plan of subdivision, PPS-2022-036, Type 1 Tree Conservation Plan, TCP1-2026-0001, as well as the variance request from Section 25-122B1G for removal of 11 specimen trees, subject to the conditions in the technical staff report. Thank you.
Are there any questions for staff? Seeing none, we will now hear from the attorney opposition. The attorney for the opponent may now summarize their testimony. Since this is your first time presenting in this case, I ask that you introduce yourself and identify the individual you will be representing. Does he need to be sworn in? And you be sworn in.
Mr. Foreman, could you also stand up to be sworn in? Raise your right hand, please. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. May it please the board. My name is Grant Amadeus Gill from the law office of G. Macy Nelson, speaking today on behalf of Kimberly Barnes, Ariel Barnes, Gina Barkey, Joyce Worthy Robinson, Calvin S. Copper, Bobby Drummond, Virgil Drummond, Tim Dudley, Otto Fluckus, Lawrence Freeman, Wayne Freeman Sr., Sandra Hampton, Boris Johnson, Beatrice Kelly, Rachel Locus, Mohammed Rabiu, Brandon Settles, Greg Smith, Patricia Sutton, Margaret Thomas, Henry Wixon, Eleanor Wixon, and the Glendale Civic Association, as well as other community members, generally who have elected not to be specifically named. I have spoken with Mr. Warner regarding the addresses of these people who have, I believe, testified substantially before in the March 26th hearing. I can present a copy of that for the record to provide their addresses as well. My clients have asked me to present closing remarks on their behalf after presentation of their various testimonies. My clients have competing degrees of concern about different aspects of this PPS. They are all generally concerned about the scope and impact of the project, which seeks, as many projects do, to push for near maximum feasible infill developable space at the expense of neighboring lots, on-site conservation features, and local facilities. It is perhaps a misnomer to view this area as low density, as testimony presented is firmly established that the neighborhood is densely populated by any layman's conception of the term, and that adding in a large house of worship in this area would lead to major traffic impacts that have not been adequately addressed by either thorough staff review or an accompanying traffic impact study, which we believe is necessary in this case under Section 24-3402, C1A XIV. Given historical analogs of the religious facilities operations at Maryland Route 564, the impacts to local infrastructure are being sorely underestimated and understated. The applicant does not appear to properly reconcile parking restrictions for off-street parking and claims that further parking evaluation will simply occur at the time of permit review, as though there would be suddenly new availability on or off-site after having already gone through a PPS approval and site plan review. Due to the nature of the site and its status as an infill development, there will be no meaningful capacity for expansion on site to accommodate new attendees. And testimony adduced has explained just how overwhelming the current attendance numbers are in the areas that are designed for high volume occupancy and accompanying parking availability, such as shopping centers, much less heavily wooded residential areas. The facility's proposal appears to provide for roughly 80 parking spaces and a facility designed for at least 300 worshipers. Again, a study should be required to analyze peak traffic surges, given what will surely occur on adjacent streets if demand exceeds off-street space. Secondly, testimony adduced has shown that the site has not taken into consideration the existence of non-tidal wetland along the southern edge of the property and is operating off of complete information in the approved natural resources inventory. The condition number 2 proposed by technical staff appears to be insufficient to resolve this oversight and may in fact compound the problem. Likewise, the development has concurrently maximized forest removal to construct structures that have no actual special conditions as required by the Forest Conservation Ordinance in Section 25. The applicant's argument and staff's concurrence regarding the removal of 11 of 16 specimen trees on site is almost tautological, and that it argues that the special condition of the site is that it has a lot of specimen trees. Particularly, quoting from the staff report, the, quote, special conditions justifying this variance request are the manner in which specimen trees are spread out on the subject property and the configuration of existing road network surrounding the subject property. Neither of these findings are justifiable. The configuration of the road network, quote, is axiomatically not part of the subject property. And even to the extent that it may justify the removal of a few specimen trees to comply with road access directives in the county ordinance and the applicant's extension of Kendra Drive to Annapolis Road to avoid excessive traffic through a bottleneck, is not a carte blanche justification to increase infill development right to the threshold and strip down many other specimen trees that are identified as hardy species in good condition. We would also posit that this is contrary to subsection E of the variance analysis, that the conditions that you're seeking a variance approval for are due to land uses off the property or on adjacent properties. And the argument that the trees are spread across the property as being a justification for the removal is, in my mind, appalling. With such rationale, the Forest Conservation Ordinance shouldn't even bother existing, since any applicant, all any applicant would need to do is to justify removal of a specimen tree would be to say that its existence on a given property is a special condition. It cannot be the case that the existence of a conservation target becomes the reason for its removal, else there would be no conservation standard at all. The applicant has not identified off-site conservation in any event, nor has the applicant justified why the size or number of the proposed buildings need to be proposed, else an unwarranted hardship occur. In particular, the size of the religious building and accompanying parking lot would save roughly half of proposed tree removals if downscaled in size and shifted towards Maryland 450 Annapolis Road, with forest retention remaining unmolested at the intersection of Kendra and Diablo, while retention of space for parking currently being slated for single-family residential development would reduce impacts even more on parcel B. Lastly, while we recognize that this hearing is focused on subdivision regulations and that developable zoning categories make the proposed structures by right uses, I would nevertheless reiterate my client's concerns that the proposed facility and its projected scale of operations is not conducive to the local land use fabric. Particularly, the fact that the facility already has a ready-made congregation and has been meeting elsewhere in the county means that the visitors to the site will be predominantly vehicular commuters operating at a scale above and beyond any previous expectation of activity by local residents. And the size constraints of the parcel and maximized developable land also mean that there would be little opportunity for any nearby residents to avail themselves of the facilities if they wish to attend there. So the needs of existing residents are not met by this proposal in accordance with Plan 2035. The loss of large amounts of green space in the area would also impact the community negatively and does not promote open space or environmental assets, also contrary to Plan 2035, which a PPS should find conformance with. In sum, we request that the Planning Board deny the PPS as proposed, and to the extent that it invites the applicant to resubmit if it does deny the PPS, we would hope that the applicant present a plan that preserves a greater degree of forested area, reduces the scale of the development, and more gracefully integrates with the local land use fabric. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions? Thank you.
You will now hear from the applicant's attorney, and you may offer your submission.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Just a little confused about the procedure this morning. I thought we continued the hearing to have outreach with the community and discuss about and to meet and give feedback about those discussions. I didn't know that there would be an attorney come in for the opposition summation or not. So I guess my question is this my closing arguments, or is this going to be my report about the meeting we had with the community, or both?
Right. So the direction at the end of the continuance of the hearing was to give you an opportunity to meet with the community and discuss. You're welcome to discuss the outcome of the discussions. It's like a court of law, right? You can meet with the other party and have discussions about things outside of the court. But your summation should be a summation of your argument in the hearing. So feel free to discuss your interactions with the community and anything that came of that, and then proceed with your summation.
Okay. Thank you very much. Just appreciate the clarification on that. As I said, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Board. My name is Nate Foreman with the law firm of O'Malley, Miles, Nyland, and Gilmore, located just up the road in Greenbelt, which is very convenient to this location. So I will start by saying I wish we could meet here every week. It is my pleasure to be here on behalf of the applicant, Jamil Jalil. As the chair and the board know that this matter was continued to today to give the applicant more time to talk to the community, work things out, and give them a better understanding of this project. I'm happy to say that I had submitted an NPIA request to get the contact information for all the members that have appeared in opposition at the last hearing. I used this information to schedule a virtual meeting for the evening of April 2nd, 2026. We had the meeting last nearly 2 hours, from 7 p.m. to about 8:45 p.m. And then in attendance, in addition to the applicant and his team, was Ms. Guzman from Councilmember Eric Olson's office. And we had about 13 members of the opposition show up, which I believe was not, if not all, maybe all but one or two. So we made sure to connect and talk to everyone who appeared in opposition at that time. Excuse me. At our April 2nd meeting, my team went through again what it means for a preliminary plan of subdivision, what that involves, what we are required to show by law, and kind of more importantly, what we can't show legally as part of the process, but what we could also discuss about how the place will operate in the future. We wanted to make sure about that, because I will say that shortly after the March 26th meeting, I did have a call from one of the concerned citizens, and we had a long discussion about how he opposed the zoning of this property. And I kept trying to explain, this is not a zoning matter. We are already permitted by right in the zone. This is a preliminary plan. So, and I understand when we are involved in the nuance of the cases, it can get lost on people without the same sort of experience. So I understand why we needed to have a meeting, but I think it's also important to know what we're really doing here today and what really is being discussed and or hopefully approved. During the meeting, we gave ample opportunity for everyone to speak. The topics that we discussed range from parking concerns, environmental regulations, stormwater management, noise, bike lanes, bike parking, and then two important issues from the community. The fencing to separate our proposed institutional use from the abutting residential uses, and the access into Glenwood Park via Hendry Drive Extended. Regarding the fence, we would like to proffer this condition to the planning board this morning and have it be part of the resolution if this application is recommended for approval. And prior to approval, the site plan for parcel 1 shall incorporate a 6-foot-tall site-type fence along the shared property lines with existing abutting lots 1, 12, and 15 in parcel 108. If you look at the map of the property that's shown on the image, it basically is all the residential zone properties and that are constructed on the right side and right north side, east to north. Now, regarding access to Annapolis Road, Maryland 450. Admittedly, this condition is trickier because the connection between Annapolis Road and the 450 and Diablo Road is required by the zoning ordinance, and it cannot be waived via a variance or departure application under the zoning ordinance. I fully believed when the zoning ordinance was being drafted that every development standard should have, under Part 6, should have some sort of relief of some kind built into it. But County Council disagreed, and we are where we are today. But all of that being said, I believe the applicant and the community have come to a compromise that should allay the fears from this community. And I'm here to say we have promised to work with the Department of Permitted Inspections and Enforcement to defer the construction of Kendra Drive until such time in the future as the 3 single-family homes are constructed. What that really means is we would have Kendra Drive be constructed only until it allows sufficient access into the place of worship, and maybe 10 or 12, 15 feet beyond that, just for some sort of area turnaround or anything like that. So that way, there would be no actual internal connection into the community from Annapolis Road via Kendra Drive. Now, the planning board cannot grant that condition, which is why I'm not proffering the condition for you to grant the deferral, but we are here today on record in front of citizens, our community, the planning board. I know Ms. Guzman from Councilmember Eric Olson's office here, so I'm up here making that proffer, making that promise, and I will be held accountable for that. We will work hard to do it. We would ask for any assistance in convincing DPI that is a great deferral to grant. So we'd be more than happy to work with anyone who wants to help out with that.
Mr. Foreman, have you already spoken to them?
We have reached out, but we have not had a meeting yet.
Okay. And when did you reach out to them?
We reached out Thursday. It was Tuesday.
And you reached out to them on Tuesday. Today is Thursday.
Yes, sir.
And there has been no communication at all?
I have not heard back from the point of contact we did reach out to.
And who did you reach out
to? It was Ray DeGuzman.
Okay.
So that more or less concludes the summary I had of the meeting between the applicant and the community. I would ask this board to adopt the subject application with the original revisions proposed by Mr. Bartlett, and then the conditions with the proffer that we have made. And I don't know if there's a consideration or how we want to work in the applicant's promise to continue to pursue that deferral. I might leave that up to the board to decide, or Mr. Warner. But I would like to close by addressing some of the opposition. Mr. Grado, yes.
I'm sorry. So you said that you could not make it a proffer. I know you can't control what DPI does, but you can make a proffer that you will work with DPI for that purpose.
Yes, we will make that proffer. We work with DPI. I want to make sure everyone understands that's listening. We can't control whether that happens or not. We can control the outreach, but I don't want it to be construed that we made this agreement and then we're somehow not following through with it. We can make that promise.
So here's my concern before you close.
Yes.
That I am excited that you're offering to put up the fence line. I think that's a great step. What concerns me is that there has not been an agreement with DPI as of yet, and that there is a promise to work with them, but there's no conclusion. And as we continue to go through this and hear your closing remarks, it just gives me pause until you have those conversations with them. Because I would want some reassurance that we're moving in the right direction. But I just wanted to share that with you as you continue your remarks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand the concern. We believed it was prudent to have this discussion, explain what the applicant is willing to do, and ask for the assistance to get this done. Because I don't know, again, there are a lot of concerned citizens, interested parties here that speak louder than just our voice. And by bringing this here publicly, we can make sure everyone who is interested in allowing this to happen can be engaged and can effectuate that promise. I think that is much more important than speaks louder than us having this agreement, because, again, without knowing the full force and weight behind why it's important to grant the deferral, it may be more of an uphill battle, and it may be more difficult to actually prove. But I think this helps understand why it's very important. I can say, well, this is something the community would like, this is something the council member's office would like, but that doesn't mean as much with me reiterating it versus the board or the citizens or the council member's office speaking with me on it. With that having been said, I would just ask, I guess, the board to approve the preliminary plan subdivision with the proffers, recommendations, and revisions as proposed. Thank you.
After hearing your summation and taking under consideration the proffer or the fence, as I stated, I am concerned that there has not been no conversation with you as of yet, and that there is a promise for consideration, but there is no agreement in place. So I am recommending that we postpone this until 2 weeks, that we close out. I'm going to now close the hearing for today, but I am going to make the recommendation that we come back in 2 weeks to give you ample time to hear from DPI and come back with a stronger product.
Mr. Chair, may I request that I will object to the postponement, first of all, but given the direction that I can hopefully maybe work with your legal staff or someone else to effectuate that conversation with DPI to make sure we get that done quickly, speedily, so that way we can have it all in place in 2 weeks. And as you can see, there's a lot of interest from the community members in Jamila and Julia. And
I can appreciate the interest, but I want to make sure we get it right. And part of our job as the board is to make sure that we hear all sides and we make an informed and intelligent decision. And at this particular juncture, I do not feel comfortable in making a ruling without making sure that there is some things in place.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, James Hunt, Acting Planning Director again. What we will do from a departmental standpoint, we'll ensure that coordination does happen. As a matter of fact, I've already got a call to the department heads over there at DPI already. And so I'll just bring this up as a part of the conversation, and we'll set up a meeting hopefully by tomorrow, as a matter of fact, if I can get this done, so we can get this moving so it does not hold up the community.
Okay, thank you. And just for the record, I will object to that being the basis for the continuance, since I don't believe the planning board has that authority, because this is not something that's actually within the approval process. I agree, I understand the reason for the condition, the continuance, but I'm just objecting for the record.
Just to clarify, nothing's being continued. The public hearing has closed.
Okay.
The board is taking everything they've heard under advisement. They're not making a decision today.
Okay.
They're anticipating making that decision in 2 weeks.
Understood. Thank you very much for the clarification.
Thank you for articulating that very well. Mr. Foreman wanted to not understand where I was going. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item number 8. Community planning divisions. All right, once again, we will move on to item number 8, Community Planning Division Subdivision 1, Master Plan, Minor Plan, Amendment, and Sectional Map Amendment. We will now hear from staff.
Good morning, Chairman Barnes and members of the Planning Board. I am Maureen Perry, Project Manager for the Subregion 1 Master Plan Minor Plan Amendment and Sectional Map Amendment Project. I'm joined by Hannah Menard, Deputy Project Manager, and Kieran McKeon, Project Facilitator in the audience. This is a minor plan amendment project, so it will not result in an entirely new plan. We can only amend less than half of the approved plan area to advance certain public planning objectives. This is paired with a sectional map amendment to update zoning for this area as well. The purpose of this agenda item is to brief you on the contents of the proposed minor plan amendment and SMA prior to council initiation next week on Tuesday. You don't need to take any action on this item today. However, at the end of the presentation, I will cover the upcoming milestones that will require your participation. In this presentation, I will walk through a brief overview of the project area and community engagement and research results, and the major changes to the master plan as outlined in the initiation resolution. Next slide, please. Subregion 1 is at the northern tip of the county, as you can see in the top left graphic. For this minor plan amendment, we focus on just a portion of the Subregion 1 area, as you can see in the map. The study area is bordered to the northeast by the city of Laurel, which has its own zoning and land use authority, and to the west by Montgomery County. The study area has great transportation access with I-95 and US 1 running north-south, and Maryland 200, the intercounty connector, running east-west. Key spots within the study area include the Meerkirk Mark Station, indicated with the train symbol, University of Maryland Laurel Medical Center, indicated with the medical symbol, and Fairland Regional Park, indicated with the tree symbol, as well as future development sites Cantera East, West, and South. Next slide, please. Now I'll review what we discovered during the community engagement and research phase of the project. Next slide. The first opportunity for public engagement came in July during a town hall event, where attendees were able to ask questions of the major stakeholders within the study area and were introduced to the minor plan amendment process. Then in November, we hosted a listening session event that included several interactive activities. Following that, an online survey was made available, which asked similar questions as the activities available at the listening session. And finally, in January, we hosted an open house event where we shared recommendations informed by previous engagement opportunities and findings from the market study and other reports and county plans. Thank you, Chairman Barnes, for attending the open house event and providing opening remarks. Next slide, please. The 4 maps shown at the open house focus on land use, connectivity, parks and open space, and placemaking and cultural identity. Attendees shared feedback through targeted questions and written comments on maps and stickers indicating what they did or did not like. For land use, there was a preference for experiential retail and mixed use at Cantera East, but primarily residential in other places. Employment opportunities along I-95, and a mix of industrial and residential at Cantera South. For connectivity, there was support for green and active transportation corridors in the forms of trails and multi-use paths,
a need for improved traffic management, and desire for walkability and connectivity surrounding the Mirror Park Station. For parks and open space, attendees express protection of open space, trail networks to connect neighborhoods, destinations including parks, and additional recreational amenities as priorities. For placemaking and cultural identity, attendees express desire for placemaking events throughout the study area, including public art, cultural gathering spaces, and farmers markets, as well as a focus on public safety so parks and gathering spaces can be enjoyed by all. Next slide, please. The market study provided additional context for the draft changes. Consistent with the existing subregion plan, Cantera East, shown at Node 1, which is there in the center of the map, represents the best opportunity for mixed use of residential, retail, and entertainment uses due to the amount of available land and access to major roadways. At Cantera West, Node 2, there also in the center of the area west of the power lines, is best suited for lower density housing, providing a buffer to existing single-family neighborhoods, and east of the power lines could have medium-density housing and auto-centric commercial uses. At Cantera South, Node 3 in the lower center, this is poised for commercial development, particularly industrial or other low-density commercial. At the Mirror Park Station, which is Node 4 in the lower right, this presents an opportunity for mid-rise rental apartments, possibly with ground floor retail, as well as the potential for traditional office that can capitalize on the access to rail. At Old Gunpowder Road, Node 5, which is in the lower left, similar to Cantera South, this is poised for industrial, given the adjacency to I-95. Near the Burtonsville substation, which is Node 6 in the upper left, this is also well positioned for industrial development, potentially even including data centers, given the proximity to the substation. And around the University of Maryland Hospital at Node 7 in the upper right, this is an opportunity for uses that have co-location benefits with hospitals, such as medical, office, and senior housing. And outside of these nodes, but in the rest of the study area, there is ongoing potential for lower density for-sale housing. Next slide. So here's a list of the agencies that we engaged with regarding this project. In mid-November, our team conducted a virtual meeting to learn more about any upcoming or ongoing projects in the subregion and study area. And then at the end of February, we shared the draft updated plan with agency representatives for their review to collect feedback and reduce inconsistencies. Next slide. Now I'll walk through the proposed updates to the master plan text. Next slide. Before we get into the chapter-specific changes, we first want to mention the changes that affect the plan overall. We updated terminology from the 2002 general plan to instead align with the 2014 Plan 2035. Plan 2035 refines policy guidance by establishing local centers, established communities, and the rural and agricultural areas, which have been incorporated into the draft plan text by replacing previous references to tiers, centers, and corridors. Additionally, both future land use and zoning designations have been updated to align with the new zoning classifications as implemented through the countywide map amendment. Next slide. In the development pattern elements chapter, added housing, retail, office, and industrial trends for the study area from the 2025 market study to those background sections. And throughout the chapter, highlighted multimodal transportation. Specifically at Cantera Town Center East, development has not yet occurred. They add strategies for large format experiential or destination retail and refined residential focused strategies to match current trends. Within Cantera West, strategies were added for a mix of employment and commercial east of the power lines to serve as a transition, while west of the power lines would be residential. And for the Mirror Park Station, strategies were added to take advantage of the opportunity area and encourage mixed use and connectivity to the station. Next slide, please. For environmental infrastructure, we replaced calling out the LEED-specific system with a more general modern green building techniques. And we received comments from the health department, so strategies were added to investigate possible historic contaminants and evaluate remediation options and prioritize groundwater recharge in aquifer areas. For transportation, all roads in the study area were updated based on the 2025 Open Church preliminary plan. We also changed references to outdated transportation guidelines and included regional trail connectivity reference documents for the city of Laurel and Montgomery County. For Parks and Recreation, we added references to Formula 2040 and the 2022 Land Preservation Parks and Recreation Plan. A strategy was added to complete the Fairland Regional Park Master Plan, which is currently kicking off and is expected to be completed after minor plan amendment approval. We also replaced the existing Parks Inventory Table 3 to reflect current land holdings. And for public facilities, we consistently got questions about school capacity from community members. So after hearing back from PDCPS, we added a table with 2025 numbers for public school enrollment and capacity. Next slide, please. For economic development, we added background with trends as identified in the market study. And strategies were added to recommend flexibility of large format entertainment uses along I-95, which expands on what the existing plan recommended due to changes in demand for things like office and retail. Strategies were also added to expand employment and industrial usage, which are reflected in the proposed zoning and land use changes. For urban design, strategies were added to preserve the employment nature of areas and incorporate other uses as the market allows, with appropriate scale, buffers, and design transitions around the Muirkirk Mark Station and Cantera Business Campus. And added components to consider in the design of Cantera East, West, and South, such as streetscapes, public spaces, parking areas, intensity transitions, and the use of natural features. And there was no change to the historic preservation section. Next slide, please. The proposed rezonings are tied to the changes in the master plan text and will be implemented through the concurrent sectional map amendment. As mentioned previously, Cantera South and a parcel along Old Gunpowder Road that have direct access to I-95 were recommended to be placed in the industrial employment zone to expand opportunities for light industrial and distribution activity and create employment opportunities. Prince George's County identified surplus and M-NCPPC owned properties are recommended to be placed into reserved open space zone to create and expand public open spaces, especially adjacent to existing parkland at Fairland Regional Park, Cross Creek Park, and Little Paint Branch Trail. Other parcels along Amandel Road are recommended to be placed in the rural residential zone to resolve split zoning and expand housing options to match surrounding uses and support future retail viability. Next slide, please. And now I'll cover timeline and next steps. Next slide, please. The team kicked off this project as our consultant in September and began conducting research, analysis, and community engagement activities before transitioning into plan amendment drafting using the results of those activities and research. Now we are about to formally initiate the project at the District Council meeting on April 14th, Tuesday next week. As I mentioned, no action is needed from me today. However, we will see you at the joint public hearing on June 8th, where everyone will have an opportunity to voice their opinion on the plan amendment and estimate. Staff will then analyze and draft responses to the testimony received and meet with you to propose any edits at a work session in September, followed by the same with Council, working toward planning board adoption and Council approval before the end of October. Next slide, please. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you, and please let me know if you have any questions.
Are there any questions?
I have, Mr. Chair, was there, I noticed with the agency meetings, was there any consideration to reach out also to the University of Maryland Hospital to see whether or not they would have any input?
They were involved in the July town hall meeting, so they had an opportunity to be part of the conversation and to answer questions from residents.
Thank you.
Say no other questions. We will now move on to the next agenda item, item number 9, Community Planning Division Subdivision 5 Master Plan, Minor Plan Amendment, and Sectional Map Amendment Revision. We will now hear from staff.
Good morning, Chairman Lawrence, members of the Planning Board. For the record, I'm Corey Arstall, the project manager for the Subdivision 5 Master Plan, Minor Plan Amendment, and Sectional Map Amendment. I'm joined by Michael Calamise, Alana Sanders, and Kiera McHugh in the audience. This briefing is informational since we intend to initiate this project with the District Council next Tuesday, April 14th. We have worked through these amendments with Councilmember Harrison and have his support on our amendments to the existing 2013 Subregion 5 Master Plan. Next slide, please. I'm going to cover a quick overview of the project and plan area. Then I'll highlight our robust community engagement and market study before diving into the actual amendments we're recommending. Then I'll touch on next steps. Next slide, please. Can you advance the slide? Thank you. Much like Subregion 1, as my colleague just presented, this project is also a minor plan amendment. so we can only amend less than half the approved plan area to advance certain public planning objectives. The existing Subregion 5 master plan was originally approved in 2009, then remanded due to issues with the SMA, and finally reapproved in 2013. Additionally, a portion of this plan in the Clinton area was superseded by the 2013 Central Branch Avenue Corridor Revitalization Sector Plan. Due to its age, the existing plan advances the prior general plan, prior zoning ordinance, and previous functional master plans. So much has changed in Shannon County since 2013, and there's a strong need to amend this plan based on the new community, economic, and council priorities to add jobs, add new housing where appropriate, and continue supporting agriculture and innovation. Next slide, please. Subregion 5 is in the southwest corner of the county and is entirely in Council District 9. The subregion features the established communities of Accokeek, Clinton, and Tippett. Brandywine is designated as a Plan 2035 Town Activity Center. Centers are focal points for development based on their access to transit or major highways. This area also contains a large portion of the rural and agricultural areas identified in Plan 2035. Major thoroughfares here are Maryland 5, Branch Ave, Maryland 210, and US 301, Crane Highway. Next slide, please. Now I'll touch on some items that inform the amendments. First is community engagement. We hosted 2 listening sessions in partnership with the council member's office. These took place in November of last year, and we had a substantial turnout at both listening sessions. These events consisted of a brief presentation, giving an overview of the plan area and the timeline of the minor plan amendment project. Then residents had the opportunity to give their feedback at 5 different interactive stations. We also held a separate listening session to engage the agricultural community in December. Lastly, to ensure that we were maximizing the opportunities to provide meaningful input, we hosted an online survey that was open for the entire month of November. Next slide, please. From both the listening sessions and our online engagement, a few key themes arose. Residents identified their top priorities as maintaining and adding new community gathering spaces, such as parks, libraries, and agritourism spots. We also heard strong support for infrastructure investments, especially those that enhance walkability and transit access. There was a strong desire for new retail, including entertainment venues and restaurants. And lastly, residents also expressed their desire to retain the rural character of the subregion while seeing development in appropriate and context-sensitive locations. Next slide, please. In addition to hearing from the community, we hosted 2 meetings with our partner agencies. In mid-November, we met virtually with local and state agencies to learn more about their ongoing projects in the subregion. And at the end of February, we shared the draft minor plan amendment with agencies for their review. We received their comments in early March and have worked to incorporate their recommendations into the draft. Next slide, please. Another input that informed the minor plan amendments was our commercial market study compared by our consultant team. This document considered local and regional trends, as well as competing markets, to determine the level of support for various retail types, industrial space, hospitality options, and office uses. The market study overall validated our thinking and showed at a high level that there is support for these uses in different parts of the subregion. Next slide, please. In addition to the general commercial uses of the previous slide, the market study also considered specialized uses that could support innovation and job growth in Subregion 5. Among these are agritourism, which can include agricultural event venues, farm stays, and wineries, and agritechnology, which is the use of tech for improving agricultural yield. The subregion shows strong support for both of these uses. A makerspace is a community workshop space that supports creative arts. There is strong support for this use in the subregion as well. And lastly, there's really strong support for medical office, but relatively little support for a large corporate office or Fortune 500 company HQ. Next slide, please. From analyzing the market, the current land use and zoning of the area, and most importantly, the results of our community engagement, we drafted amendments to the existing 2013 plan. Throughout the document, we updated language to reflect the approval of Plan 2035. This general plan revised growth policy areas for the county and established Brandywine as a town activity center, and there were changes in language associated with that. Other functional master plans have been approved since 2013, and references to those were updated as well. Both future land use designations and zoning classes have also been updated to align with the new classifications implemented through Plan 2035 and the countywide map amendment. Lastly, the minor plan amendment cuts out many references to the Clinton area, as they now fall within the Central Branch Avenue Corridor Revitalization Sector Plan. Now I'll walk us through the key changes in each chapter. Next slide, please. In the Land Use and Development Pattern chapter, we strengthen our vision for the future by updating the future land use map and refining the policies that guide growth. We add recommendations that support strategic rezonings near the MidStar Southern Maryland Hospital Center to support the medical innovation campus concept. We introduce new language supporting the creation of gateway features in Accokeek, aligning with the ongoing study taking place in our department. A substantive focus of the amendment is the Brandywine Town Center and Branch Avenue corridor. Our amendments reimagine Brandywine as a walkable, transit-oriented, mixed-use anchor for South County. Key recommendations include increasing housing options at densities that support transit, improving pedestrian and cyclist connectivity across Branch Avenue, 301, and throughout the center, reworking parking and site design to create a more cohesive, people-focused environment, and introducing design considerations that focus in on the desired look and feel of the center. Next slide, please. Changes in the environment chapter were relatively minimal since the existing plan was very strong. Updates include enhancing the water quality section to recommend the reduction of pesticides and herbicides used in sensitive areas. We also add reference to Maryland House Bill 1470 that increases protections in the Chesapeake Bay critical area. And lastly, we incorporate the recommendations of the 2020 sand and gravel mining study completed by our department, especially the recommendations to consider renewable energy sources as post-extraction uses for these mines. Next slide, please. In the transportation chapter, it's broken out by travel mode. In the road section, most updates focus on aligning our ultimate build-out recommendations with the preliminary Go Prince George's Master Plan Transportation to ensure consistency with upcoming countywide efforts that prioritize pedestrian and cyclist safety. We also recommend targeted roadway and intersection improvements in the Brandywine Town Center and Accokeek areas, along with expanding the priority funding area along Maryland 5 and US 301 to improve access to infrastructure funding. The transit section of the existing plans was already fairly strong, and we enhance it with details that better position the subregion for the arrival of the Southern Maryland Rapid Transit Line. For bikeways, sidewalks, and trails, our amendments emphasize safety, connectivity, and network cohesion. We refined alignment and facility types based on input from the Go Prince George's team and the Department of Parks and Recreation. Next slide, please. In the public facilities chapter, we incorporate thoughtful updates based on feedback from our agency partners. These revisions reflect recent school closures and openings, as well as the completion of planned parks. In the library section, we propose citing a new makerspace near the existing Accokeek Library to expand creative and educational opportunities here. In the waste management section, we introduce a new policy encouraging the adaptive reuse of former landfill sites, supporting innovation and sustainable land stewardship. Next slide, please. The economic development chapter underwent a significant and forward-looking update. We refreshed much of the background information with insights from the market study. We build on the area's foundation of agricultural productivity. We emphasize the role of agri-technology in improving the financial viability of farming. And we make recommendations for a feasibility study for a new processing and packing facility to increase agricultural opportunity. We also introduce a new policy to evaluate the subregion's suitability for a qualified data center based on the findings of the task force report. In Accokeek, we added policies that highlight Accokeek Village shopping centers, potential for expanded pedestrian-oriented retail, and small-scale multifamily near that new retail. We also recommended establishing business incentives to promote storefront upgrades and small business expansion. Also in Act Keep, we add amendments that support the rezoning of parcels along Maryland 210 to accommodate flex industrial and commercial service uses playing off the existing node. In Brandywine, we focus on leveraging upcoming transit investments and strengthening the area as a mixed-use destination. Key amendments are retaining and recruiting high-quality tenants near the upcoming Southern Maryland Rapid Transit stops, encouraging new mixed-use buildings with ground floor commercial and residential above, and the potential redevelopment of Brandywine Crossing. Expanding the supply of housing to ensure sufficient density to attract new office, retail, and entertainment users, and supporting the expansion of medical office users, building on the existing healthcare anchor. Next slide, please. In the historic preservation section, minor changes were made to refer to updated cemetery preservation manuals and a continued commitment to preserving and recording the history of the Piscataway people. Next slide, please. Finally, here's the project timeline. We spent the last few months engaging with the community, conducting research, and drafting. We intend to initiate the minor plan amendment and the sectional map amendment to the 2013 Subregion 5 plan area next Tuesday, April 14th. Following initiation, we intend to host a joint public hearing with you, the Planning Board, and the District Council on June 9th. After the joint public hearing, we expect to see the Planning Board action in September and final District Council decision in October. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Good job. Are there any questions?
One, Mr. Chair. So I want to thank you for the presentation. The concern that I have is I see with the improvements in Akaki. Are we going to make any recommendations for improvement in 210?
Yes, so through the Bureau of Prince George's Master Plan Transportation, we're incorporating their recommendations.
So what are the recommendations to improve the safety on 210?
I know that we're working through, in partnership with MDOT, they're working on a pedestrian safety action plan. I'm not positive exactly what the recommendations are, but my understanding is there's significant and robust commitment to enhancing pedestrian cyclist safety.
So eventually that'll be included within this?
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
That's nothing further.
Mr. Chair, is that recommendation for the data center? I saw the data center in there. Can you go back to that?
Yes, so that recommendation is just for a suitability analysis for a data center somewhere in Subregion 5. And that's largely just playing off the recommendations from the Qualified Data Center Task Force report. We don't have a particular location in mind. It's just recommending analysis to the subregion.
I have a question. Thank you for the presentation. There was a note in your presentation around the packing and processing facilities. Was that sort of stemmed from some of the conversations with agricultural folks there and their sort of interest in that?
Yeah, exactly. So we had a meeting in partnership with the Soil Conservation District in December. It was purely focused around the agricultural community. We heard that there was a lot of limitations on value-added agriculture, so you can, grow things, raise crops. There isn't a lot of opportunity to turn your beef into sausage, so this would provide a solution for that.
And Commissioner, might I add just to that, the planning department is really strategically trying to align that with our food systems planning program. One of the things that we did a tour last year, and we found that there was a need for a meat processing facility here in Prince George's County, not just in Southern Maryland, period, because most of those farmers have to go all the way to Pennsylvania. There's an opportunity for Prince George's County to leverage on that, and so we really want to take advantage of that as part of our food systems planning program to have that for Prince George.
Good question. And the process, what about the schools? Any new development for new schools?
Yes, so we heard recommendations. We worked very closely with the school board and George County School District. Don't recall exactly what their recommendations were, but we incorporated the feedback we received from them, and that is present in the minor plan amendment. We're limited in this process in doing public facilities analysis as part of the minor plan amendment, so it's largely just incorporating what we heard from agency partners.
Great job. Any other questions? Seeing none, this concludes all items on today's agenda. I want to thank the staff and others for coming out today. The time is now 11:40, and our meeting is now adjourned.